Let's start with a quote. This is the final, chilling entry in a case file so explosive, it didn't just expose a conspiracy, it literally rewrote the rules of global power. Let's open the dossier.
So today, we are cracking open the unredacted dossier on Case 003. It's this absolute labyrinth of brutal murders that starts in the halls of Washington, D.C., and, believe it or not, ends with the question of who truly runs the world. This isn't just a story about a crime, it's about an ascension to the ultimate seat of power.
Okay, so here's how we're going to break this down. We're starting with the bloodbath that kicked this whole thing off. Then, we'll uncover the shadowy syndicate pulling all the strings. After that, we'll watch their master plan for the White House unfold, right before we get to a twist that changes absolutely everything. And we'll end with a challenge, one that puts the final verdict in your hands.
All right, it all begins here. And this thing doesn't start with some quiet backroom conspiracy. No, it kicks off with a series of vicious, high-profile murders. They were designed to send a clear, brutal message.
And the body count? Wow, it is staggering from the get-go. The vice president's assistant, Rayanne Roker, she's found with over 40 stab wounds. I mean, that is a deeply personal, rage-filled execution. Then you have Congressman Damiano's, who gets a bullet to the head, staged to look like a simple drug overdose. And his assistant gets the exact same brutal 40-stab treatment. To top it all off, a famous TV evangelist just suddenly drowns. On the surface, it looks like total chaos, but trust me, there's a pattern here.
Let's just drill down on one of these murders for a second. Take Nick Keller. The official story that went public was that an expert swimmer, a former lifeguard, just passed out and drowned. Sounds a little fishy, right? Well, that's because it is. The truth? He was executed. He was silenced because he found out his wife was having an affair with the vice president. The hitman was a CIA asset, a guy named Chad Meets, who shot him twice underwater.
And what does a hit like that cost? $800,000. That was the price tag for Keller's murder. Wired through a front company that was actually used by a high-end DC pimp. So yeah, this was not some crime of passion. This was a well-funded, professional operation.
So, who has that kind of cash and the motive to pull this off? Well, that question, it leads us straight to the Khan Syndicate, the shadow dynasty that connects every single one of these bodies.
And this family? Wow, they've got every single angle covered. You've got Callie, he's the money guy, running a $10 billion oil empire. His brother Sean is the tech wizard, controlling everything from AI to crypto. Their cousin, Tully, he's the enforcer, and he's perfectly placed as the director of the FBI. And then there's Priyanka, she's their ultimate infiltrator, married to the Vice President of the United States.
Just think about their strategy for a second. It's like an impenetrable fortress. Kali's oil money buys them a seat at any table they want. Sean's technology, that locks it all down, secures their communications, launders their money through crypto that you just can't trace. And if anyone at all, got too close, bam! Cousin Tully uses the full weight of the FBI to shield the entire operation. It was pretty much a perfect setup.
Okay, so why all the murders? Why go through all this elaborate trouble? Because this wasn't just about money or influence anymore. This was about their end game, seizing control of the most powerful office on the planet.
And they had a name for it, the Ascension Plan. You see, President Barron's health was secretly failing. The Khans knew their asset. Vice President Liam Richards was next in line. So these murders, they were just cleanup. A brutal, bloody operation to eliminate anyone and everyone who could expose their influence before he took the oath of office.
In that final 24-hour period, it is just ruthlessly efficient. Check this out. At night, President Barron flatlines. Just 2 hours later, Priyanka, the VP's wife, a Khan herself, is thrown off a hotel roof. The very next afternoon, their 15-year-old son, Sean, is found dead from a forced overdose. 20 minutes later, Liam Richards is sworn in as president. And then less than 2 hours after that, he announces he's engaged to Michelle Keller, the widow of the evangelist they had murdered just a few years earlier.
But why kill their own family? I mean, that's cold. It's because Priyanka, the architect of this whole political infiltration, had become a liability. And their son, Sean, well, he'd overheard way too much. They were the last two people with the Richards name who could directly expose the Khan bloodline's connection to the Oval Office. So, they were erased.
So, this is where the story should be over, right? The bad guys win, they install their puppet president, the case goes cold.
But there were these two investigators, Claudia and Rex, and they got closer than anyone ever had. And what they did next? Well, it wasn't just solving the case.
So, what do you think they did? Did they slap the cuffs on the cons and blow the whole conspiracy wide open for the world to see?
No. Justice, well, that wasn't really their endgame. They had a completely different idea.
They realized that exposing a syndicate this powerful would cause absolute global chaos. So instead, they dismantled the con leadership and just took their place. They seized control of the entire shadow network for themselves.
They called it the Greenland Accord, a new council of 7, with Claudia and Rex at the head, now holding the ledger of secrets, the ultimate black book of compromise, financial control, and political leverage that the cons had built. We're talking about power that, with a single upload, could literally topple nations. And that right there brings us to the end of our explainer. And to the central question this whole thing leaves us with. The case file is officially closed, but now the verdict is in your hands. Knowing the sheer scale of the con syndicate, the depth of their infiltration, the power they wielded, did our investigators make the right choice? Was seizing control really better than burning the whole rotten system to the ground?
The case file itself actually ends with this challenge for you. You've seen the evidence we've laid out, but did Claudia and Rex get every single detail right? And more importantly, was becoming the new shadow government the only option? Or should they have just exposed it all and let the world burn? The source material leaves that for you to decide. The question of what you would have done, that remains open.
There's this final, haunting thought from the investigators themselves. They believe they didn't just solve a string of murders. They ended one era of shadow control and began another. The question is, will theirs be any different?